Alright, episode 2. I'm still working on this pig. Unboxing video. I believe this is my fuel pump. Let's see what I get. TI Automotive P9000267. I don't know, does it look legit? A couple of clamps and a sock and some fuel hose and a pigtail. Guess there it is. It says TI Automotive. I'm gonna give it a shot. Maybe I can try a first start on that motor since I did my cam and valve springs. Make sure it runs before I bother putting that in the car. Stay tuned. I got my fuel injectors swapped out and the rails changed, and I'm about to take the engine off, try to put the transmission on the stand and start doing this HD2 kit. Give you a look here at how the injectors went. I know everybody's doing decapped injectors right now, but I'm not shooting for 500 horsepower. I'm shooting for, build everything to survive 700-ish horsepower. So I went with the Deca 80s, and I'll be doing methanol injection. Right now I'm limited to the bottom end of this thing is early 3rd gen rod, so it'll fold up at 550 according to Denma. So I'll just try to get it running and learn how to tune, blow it up, and then get a better motor or better parts if I don't blow it up, and we'll fix it later. Trying to get this Transgo kit in. This is the HD2 kit that's recommended. I know the video that Sloppy Mechanics made, they didn't put everything in, and then he had problems like not being able to shift in reverse because his torque converter clutch was locked. So I think I'm going to do as much of it as I can, pull out the pump and all that. I don't think I'm going to do an uncut video the way they did because my batteries die way faster than his equipment. I ain't no pro. What else we got going on? I got my turbo in. I got, a couple of things. My transmission controller is like that circuit card you have to solder together yourself. A friend of mine saw that and he thought, that's really cool, and he said, I can solder, and he offered to do it, and in a week he put the whole thing together. He just stopped and asked me once in a while, hey, what do you want to do with each circuit? So I tried to follow what James Murray does so that when I run his software on the thing, it will run the right inputs and outputs. We'll see how it goes. But it looks like only about a half of the card has been populated with parts. So I think there's still a lot left. Like, I think I can run a speedometer output and a tachometer output, and maybe even run an old pickup truck dash in the Caprice, or maybe just run the stock Caprice dash. I don't know. I'll do whatever I have to be able to tell how fast I'm going. And there's a guy who was really butthurt I didn't mention him. LJ, thank you for the motor. Are you better now? That's it. I'll show you some more later. Bye. Well, I got the engine off the stand, and it's sitting over here. We'll get to it a little bit later on. The transmission, though, I got a problem. I've got these bolts that thread into a small block or into a 3rd gen small block too, just fine. But I don't have nuts that fit them in my spare parts laying around, and I'm too lazy to go look through my other piles of crap that I have to see if I have any nuts that'll fit. So we'll get to it later. Oh man, look at this mad score. I bought this extra Caprice for 250 bucks and got all the wheels with it. So I got extra grandpa burnout wheels. And the other cool part was it came with a an axle with 30 splines, which is much nicer than my other one. You probably can't see it up there. It's sitting in front of this 84 Caprice. This is my favorite car so far, but you wouldn't be able to tell why now. It was just fun to drive. It was built better than these newer cars. It just was. Don't know how else to say it. Anyway, I was just kind of pulling LJ's chain there. This really was a good deal to get this much stuff with the motor. I was thinking I might be lucky to find one for around $500, so this was excellent, and it really was a good deal, and it did help a lot. This thing, not so much. That was $600, and then the next day it comes up for $500 on Craigslist. That's about as cheap as I thought I'd find at $500, but what a bummer. You look around for a month, you find what looks the cheapest in your area, and then the next day something's $100 less and cleaner. Who knows? We'll slap it together. So here's some of the other stuff I've gotten lately. I got the turbo, which is, you know, the most important thing, right? It's probably a 3-inch inlet. I bet if you did math, you could probably figure out what 78 millimeters is. Anyway. VS Racing gave me the wastegate and some V-band clamps, mounting flange I could put on the thing, a blow-off valve that, according to Matt and every Australian you meet, you don't need. I got this boost control valve. Look how tiny this thing is. I was kind of shocked. I thought it would be like the size of a garage door opener. And the other funny thing is, it came from, like, I ordered it on eBay from the cheapest person I could find. Turns out to be DIY Auto Tune. And this comes from Wixom, Michigan. I'm in the Detroit suburbs a little bit north, but I could have drove out there. Anyway, it probably wouldn't have been cheaper. And then this AEM gauge for fuel-air ratio. This thing is tiny as crap too. But tiny doesn't matter if all you need to know is what your oxygen is. It helps a lot in tuning. I made an analog gauge once, and it helped a lot tuning a carburetor. This comes with the O2 sensor. The gauge is also a controller, so it controls the sensor. You don't necessarily hear about that, but the wideband sensors need a controller usually. Comes with some other wiring and extra bezel, different faces and stuff for the back, all that crap. Actually a really good deal for $140-ish. So my trans controller, my buddy helped me build. I mean, by helped I mean he did the whole thing. I didn't touch it once. And look how many more things are on this than the last time I showed it to you guys. And how many things are just still not there. So that's all open stuff that I can use for inputs and outputs. And I don't even know what to do with them yet. So that's good, because the old Mega Squirt 1 board that I had ran out of I/O, and I was initially thinking I'd just do a turbo car with a turbo 400 trans, so I wouldn't have overdrive and I wouldn't have lockup, and I started thinking about it, and I'm like, this is probably worth getting all this extra stuff. It probably costs an extra $1,500 to do it this way. I'm lying, it's probably more like $3,000 extra. But if you're going to drive the car and cruise across country in it, it's probably a worthwhile upgrade to have overdrive and lockup. So all that we've got of the cable so far is enough to do the serial cable and power, so that we could load firmware on that little microchip there. We loaded firmware, it worked fine, that was great. These are the circuits that I ended up using. So VSS, vehicle speed sensor, that's the output shaft. Input shaft speed sensor, open, brake switch, trans temp sensor, switch A, switch B. Let's see. Switch C, made out of an EGT circuit. Most of that we just didn't use, and swapped some parts around. There's a neat guide for that on the GPIO forums. It tells you how to make whatever kind of circuits you want out of the EGT. Keep it generic. I've got solenoid A and B for controlling the shifts, torque converter clutch, speedometer output. I still don't understand how to hook that up to gauges, but I'd like to use either stock gauges or use an old set of pickup gauges I have that have tachometer and speedometer. We'll see. Pressure control solenoid, and that's it. All this other stuff is wide open to work with later. All open inputs and outputs. So fun stuff. And then I got this big box here. We'll have to open that one up and see what's in there. So in the other boxes we got a manual boost controller, which I didn't even unpackage here to show you because I'm not going to use it. That may not be fair to anybody, but here's a supply line, oil supply line. It's got this feed restrictor already in it. Hooks up to an AN line. I don't know if you guys can see that. Not sure what that is yet. Here's an exhaust flex joint or whatever. This turbo blanket comes with the kit. I don't know if I have a need for that. Here's a whole bunch of crazy blue and red AN lines like nobody uses anymore. This is the return line kit. Intercooler piping kit. Comes with a couple of bends. I screwed up and got a 2.5 to 3.75 elbow. Not this one, but assuming that I'd get the Denmark kit and that I'd be able to just bolt it onto my truck intake. But this upgrade kit that I ended up getting has 3-inch intercooler tubing, so I'm out $17 for that elbow. I'll have to buy another one. Total bummer. Wasted money. I got the intercooler here. Looks like straight out the sides toward the top. There's some like flanges, probably with like threaded holes. Yeah, where you can mount sheet metal to it or whatever. I don't know. I'll figure out how to work that later. I'm not even sure this will fit nice in the Caprice. I'm sure there's going to be some hacksaw butchery involved. But we'll get it. Should be fun. Well, it's starting to rain. Got the pan off. And it looks like the reason for all this silicone was the gasket had been ripped a few times. Nothing looks too unusual in here to me. There's some black gunk, but every automatic trans has that. I think I'll clean it up and just buy a new gasket and a new filter because those don't come with the Transgo kit. I've got the kit laying here, trying to decide what I should do. I've read that I should get rid of the third gear check ball and different opinions on what sizes to drill the plate. I'll let you know when I get to that step. Sounds like we got a thunderstorm going outside. I'll check back with you later. Just wanted to get some shots of these connectors that I've loosened up and removed because I'll be going back over this video to figure out how this came apart. This came from right there. Everything was tucked underneath this feed tube, which I think will be the next thing off. And then the harness, and then this whatever pressure switch plate thing. So something I've got that's not really matching my directions is, let's see. So I take parts out, and then I'm supposed to install this cap and put the pin back through it. But the cap sticks out too far. You can't do that. So watching one of Denma's videos, they grind down on this side of the filter until there's almost nothing left. So that's what I'm left with. And that's what I had to do to be able to put the thing in. We'll see how it goes. And there was no spring in this location when I pulled mine apart, so I don't have one to put back in. I don't believe it tells me to put any new spring from the kit in there. I'm dumb. So in step 2 here, you're supposed to put in these 2 springs, and for slightly firmer shifts just the outer blue spring, and for even firmer just the inner blue spring. So I only put this one in, and I'm keeping the outer blue spring for later if I don't like it. Other choices I'm making: you have to drill the plate for 4th, 3rd, and 2nd so that it can apply fluid a little bit faster and give you firmer shifts. They tell you to pick from average, softer, firmer, and for race just a 1/8. I'm going to have a 2700 RPM stall, so, and I don't plan to go to the track too much, so I think I'm going to go with the closest I could get to 100, and out of the drills I have, that was a .109, which is I think 7/64. Well, mostly back together. I still have to take out the pump, and there's no gaskets or anything that come with that. It'll have to come off the stand and sit in a bucket or something, but there's a little instruction here about drilling a hole, and I believe that without that hole you get the problem that Sloppy Mechanics showed on the Colorado, where it kept stalling every time you put it in gear from park because the torque converter clutch won't unlock. So that's for another day. Pretty good work all in all. Oh, and lots of gasket scraping to do over there. Thought I'd give everybody a word of caution. Remember, I've never done this and I don't know if it's going to work, so wait till you find out what happens. This might just blow up and not work. Good luck if you've already started buying parts. Hey guys, back at it with this shift kit again. It's been taking me a while. I had to take all of this valve body stuff back off again because there's a screw that goes right there that holds in some of these parts. As you can see, I've got the front drum, or the front pump out on my jerry-rigged transmission stand here. Oh boy, this is gonna stink. All that video will be sideways. Sorry about that. Anyhow, I decided to pull out some of the internal stuff. I did the part where you drill the hole. Oh, where is it? Like right in there. Don't know if you can see that. It's just a little tiny hole. And there's another one where you drill a hole bigger there for draining behind the pump seal. I couldn't get it drilled all the way out to a quarter. I kept getting hung up, so I gave up. I got it a little bigger anyway. So I've been distracted a little bit from doing this because I bought my grandpa's old 46 Willys Jeep. I know this is off topic, but I just thought it was cool. When my grandpa was alive, he had 2 Willys Jeeps. He had a 48 and a 46. This is the older one. One of my uncles got the 48 and one got the 46. This one got the 46, got it running, and he sold it to me. And I've been banging on the carburetor and banging on the regulator, and it all seems to be working again. Not sure how much we're leaking. Doesn't look like much. This is kind of goofy. That prevents you from being able to open the hood up onto the roof. So it says to do these mods if you take your transmission apart. I'm just going to try to give it a shot. I don't have a manual or anything that tells me how to take the trans apart, so we'll see how it goes. I did a 700 R4 a couple times with a friend. So as far as I remember, it was just a lot of prying off seals and snap rings with a screwdriver. We'll see how it goes. Well, I did it. It's not as hard as you'd think to pull this stuff out. It didn't even take any tools. You just lift them out. And if you look down here, I believe that snap ring is the next piece that would come out. That one's going to take at least a flat blade screwdriver to get out, and that's probably it. I think that this is the direct drum. I'll get this band out of the way because it's got a one-way clutch on it. This will only turn one direction. I think I saw somebody talking about that on the internet, but he kept on saying the wrong part and editing it with captions, so we'll see. I'll change the snap ring first and then I'll go check some diagrams on the internet. I got all these springs changed out. I took it to a friend that had a hydraulic press, and we used a couple of pieces of like aluminum angle aluminum. Anyway, then another bar across the top of that, and we pressed down, and we fought and struggled with this circlip because it's got like a little sharp corner on the ends there. There's no holes to put a regular circlip plier in to spread it out, so it was all kinds of fighting with a screwdriver, and then even more fighting to pry each spring off with another screwdriver. The flat ring on the bottom, when you pull this assembly out, you just keep going all the way around and inch it out a little bit more and a little bit more until that plate comes off. And then this plate, these are basically all kind of flared on the other side so that they wrap around the spring a little bit. So they take a good bit of prying too. It helps with two people and screwdrivers. But the new springs go on a lot easier than the old ones come off, so that was kind of nice. And I wasn't even there when the clip got put back on, so I'm not sure how it was done. I heard it was more screwdrivers and cussing. So I put that band back in and seated it on the peg on the side here, and just set the other piece where it is. Next we'll drop the direct drum in there. So I'll try to line up all these frictions with a screwdriver. Whatever. See how it goes. Then these are supposed to spline in between all of those. I think this is called the forward drum. Sorry, I can't do this with one hand, so you'll have to wait for me to come back. And I believe you just twist and shake until things start to get seated. I don't think I got it. Off camera. There it goes. You just had to do it a lot more violently. This thing I believe was in two pieces when I put it in. Let's see if I can figure out how that came apart. That's not what I meant, but that's part of it. Seems to be holding together, so let's see. Perfect enough. I forgot I need gaskets and things. Those are in the house. So I'm reusing all kinds of O-rings and clutches and stuff, but I got a new front pump seal. is this thing? A torque converter seal, a new gas, and what else? Filter. Seemed like a good idea. I knew somebody had been in there and I didn't know what kind of mess they left. Honestly, it looks pretty decent inside because I didn't take much apart. The less you know, the better you feel. Pro tip number 1. Make sure this O-ring is off before you slide your pump on. Pro tip number 2. Before you bolt your pump down, make sure this bolt's going to go in the hole. I think it will. If I wiggle it around, probably should have done that first. Crap. That was incredibly easy. I actually put back the stock bolt in here. I didn't think that the one from Transgo looked stronger. Not that you can tell by looking, but I kind of trust the factory a little bit better on some things. What else? Don't screw around with that thing there. It's spring loaded and shoots out and rolls in the grass and dirt and everything, and then you gotta clean it off. Now I have to lift it. One last thing. Always never forget to put the seal back on. Because if you don't, I don't really know how these things work, but probably your torque converter won't lock up. Pretty good for not having a manual, I think. We'll see if it works. Back together. It took a while, like a couple of months. But that's how it goes when you've got a big yard to take care of, I guess. I don't know. I waste a lot of time mowing grass and not doing this. Anyway, glad it's over.